Reaching the unreached of village India. Despite India's recent economic growth, more than a third of the population lives below the poverty line. This is because much of the recent growth has been in the urban centres, whereas 60% of Indians are employed in the agricultural sector. Reaching the Unreached, often referred to as RTU, is an organisation dedicated to care for the needs and priorities of the poorest, especially the women and children, and empower them towards their overall development and self-reliance. It has worked in the rural Theni, Madurai and Dindigul districts of Tamil Nadu in South India for over 30 years. This is Brother James, the founder of RTU, who began it in 1978 with a small clinic. The charity has now grown, as their mission statement says, to serve the poorest in our area, especially the women and children, the needy, the sick, the homeless, the unemployable, and those in need of houses and water, by whatever means are needed and suitable and possible, according to the health needs and priorities of the people. Mr. Kamaraj is the Director of Education, responsible for the 11 preschools, the 3 primaries, and the high school within RTU. He is also responsible for the support they give to the state education system in the neighbourhood. Mr. James runs the outreach programme, and Mrs. Shanmuga Latha is in overall charge of the children's villages. Children's villages. Reaching the Unreached's mission in its children's villages is to provide the best possible care and support to children from difficult circumstances. This includes preventing abuse, restoring dignified living conditions, and promoting children's rights through a family care system. RTU has built 4 villages for the children and has 670 children currently under RTU's direct care. A typical house comprises a kitchen, washroom, 2 living areas, a toilet, and a veranda. These houses have a foster mother who was usually destitute or widowed early, and up to 8 orphaned children who live as a family. The idea of living as families is to create, as near as possible, the environment from which they came, so that they have brothers and sisters, as well as a mother to play with and to form bonds with. Reaching the Unreached feels that this gives them a sense of belonging. This is foster mother Jaya Mary and her family at the Ambualam Children's Village. Jaya was deserted by her husband and so applied to work as a foster mother. She has 2 children of her own who are 9 and 10 years old, who are now part of her much larger family. Children come to RTU for many different reasons, as Jaya's family shows. This is Vignesh, who is 8 years old. His father died of cancer, and his mother was very ill and needed to have an operation. She asked RTU to take in Vignesh and his younger sister Saranya. Both were placed with Jaya. They were with RTU for a year until their mother recovered and was able to take them back. Another child in the family seen here preparing to leave for school is Kausalya, who is 10 years old. Her father died of AIDS. Her mother is HIV positive and was unable to manage looking after her child. The youngest in Jaya's family is baby Harish, seen here in Jaya's arms as she prepares a meal. Harish's father felt the boy was not his child, and so rejected him. The mother gave him to RTU. In September 2007, he was adopted through RTU by a childless couple. After the children go to the primary and nursery schools, the foster mothers in the children's villages then do chores, washing, cleaning, and preparing meals, as well as attending training on HIV/AIDS awareness and childcare. In the evenings after school, the children play in playgrounds provided by RTU in the children's villages. There are slides and swings for children of all ages. Sometimes there are dance performances after the evening prayer. Hostels. Reaching the Unreached has hostels for the teenage girls and boys which are within the villages. The children move here when they are adolescents. They live there and are encouraged towards an independent way of living. They go to RTU's high school nearby. And once they complete school, they are placed in colleges to continue their professional studies. RTU recently built a new girls' hostel, which is called Josephine. The older children moving here has enabled them to take younger children into the villages. A multi-faith opening ceremony was held with the girls who would be living there. Children leave RTU when they are married or when they are placed in decent jobs. Many of the children are now working as doctors, nurses, engineers, carpenters, managers, consultants, lab technicians, and teachers. Education. The education provided at Reaching the Unreached is intended to contribute to a holistic development of poor and marginalized children by providing opportunities for quality education in a child-friendly environment. At RTU there are 11 preschools, or balwadis as they are also called. These have the added benefit of enabling mothers to work. The children are also provided with a free lunch and supervised play. RTU runs 3 primary schools where the basics of numeracy and literacy in both Tamil and English are taught, as well as other subjects. They too are provided with a free lunch and a playground. RTU also has a high school for boys and girls. It has had a 100% success rate in secondary school leaving certificates in the last 3 years. The high school has a biology lab, a chemistry lab, and a physics lab, and teaches arts as well as languages. RTU also has a mobile science lab, which they use to teach in the village and government schools where they do not have the facilities for laboratory experiments. The children study up to their exams, which give them admission to institutions of further or higher education. The quality of education that RTU provides, and the qualifications which so many of the children achieve, are a real passport to integration into society. Outreach programs. Reaching the Unreached has many different outreach programs, helping people in 40 nearby villages. These were set up as RTU found that more than 80% were living below the poverty line, and they had little or no access to health care. The program has 3 main aims. Firstly, to reduce mother and infant mortality rates, and to provide primary medicine to surrounding villages. Secondly, to improve the employment possibilities of poor families through training and self-help groups. And lastly, to provide housing and safe drinking water for deprived communities.